I arrived in medieval France, walking toward a castle I'd only seen in old paintings and history books. With every step on that dirt road, it sank in that I was no longer in my own century. As I drew closer to the hilltop village, the smell from chimneys and the distant chatter made the 1200s feel strangely alive and familiar. It felt less like stepping into a story and more like stepping into someone's memory. Crossing toward the castle walls, I felt the weight of stone and time tower above me. Back home, this would have been a museum piece, but here it was a living, breathing world that somehow I'd slipped into. Life inside the courtyard moved with a quiet certainty, people working, talking, existing as if time itself were unshakable. I realized I was the only one here who knew how fragile that illusion really was. As the days began to unfold, I started to recognize faces. The knight who never smiled, the boy who always ran ahead of his mother. I was still a stranger, but the castle no longer felt like a place I was just visiting. From the balcony, the village below looked small and infinite at the same time. I remember thinking that for them, this was simply home, but for me, it was a borrowed lifetime. As more days slipped past, the castle at sunset became my favorite kind of silence. Standing on the battlements, I felt the centuries between my world and this one dissolve for just a moment. Even in the stable yard, with the horses snorting and the workers moving hay, there was a kind of peace that I never found in the city back home. It was as if this time period had nothing to prove to anyone. Inside the chapel, colored light spilled over stone like a quiet kind of grace. I didn't share their prayers, but I understood the longing behind them. The more time I spent in the library, the more I felt the presence of the people who had written and preserved these words. It was humbling to realize how many minds had reached across centuries before I ever set foot here. The village streets slowly became familiar. The curve of the well, the sound of carts over stone, the way people greeted one another without hurry. I started to feel less like an observer and more like a ghost walking alongside them. Down by the river, I watched women rinse clothes in the cold water, their laughing carrying over the current. It struck me how joy could survive even without any of the things we think we need today. In the guard quarters, I saw armor stacked beside worn boots and half-finished meals. It reminded me that behind every story of war, there is always people just trying to endure another day. The workshop smelled of wood shavings and effort, each piece carved with care that didn't need an audience. I wondered how different my own life would look if I treated time that same way. As the days blurred into one another, the garden became a place I went to catch up with myself. Something about the beautiful growing plants made it easier to hear my own thoughts. At the archery range, every arrow launched like a question shot into the future. I kept thinking how none of them would ever know that someone from the future had already seen how their world turned out. Looking out from the hillside, the fields and rooftops almost felt unreal, like a painting I'd somehow stepped inside. It was the first time I admitted to myself that I didn't want this visit to end too quickly. In the tavern, warmth and noise wrapped around me, and for a little while I forgot how far from home I really was. Their stories, their jokes, their tired smiles, none of them knew they were speaking to someone from 800 years in the future. In the tailor shop, fabric slowly became clothing under patient hands, one stitch at a time. It made me wonder what kind of person I was slowly becoming here, without even noticing. Standing on the bridge at dusk, I watched the water carry away the colors of the day. It felt like it was carrying parts of me too, the hurried, restless version of myself I'd brought from the future. Leaning over the castle well, my reflection wavered between this century and the one I came from, and for just a second, I wasn't sure which life felt more real. Walking through the armory, I saw weapons lined up in perfect rows, waiting for conflicts I already knew were coming. It was a strange kind of heartbreak, both knowing the future and being powerless to warn them. Along the cliffside path, the wind rushed against my back like a gentle insistence. I realized this place wasn't asking me to stay, it was asking me to listen. Traveling the merchant road with strangers, I heard stories of neighboring towns, failed harvests, and small victories. It reminded me how every era believes its problems are the greatest the world has ever seen. In the Abbey garden, the quiet felt deeper than anything I'd ever felt in my own time. I started to understand that peace wasn't a place, it was a decision to be present wherever you are. Watching stonecutters at the quarry, I saw how carefully each block was shaped for walls they might never live to see finished. It made me think about the things we build in our own lives that outlast us. The castle hall at night felt sacred, lit only by flickering torches and the echo of my own footsteps. It was here that I realized I was no longer just passing through. I had been changed by this world in ways I couldn't undo. Out by the windmills, the slow turning of the blades matched the slower turning of my thoughts. I began to accept that leaving would hurt, and that maybe that was the proof that this time had truly touched me. On my final morning atop the hill, the castle and village below looked almost unreal in the pale light. I knew that when I returned to my own century, a part of me would always still be here, walking these roads in medieval France. Something deep inside of me said I'd never be the same. In medieval France, humanity shaped the world with walls, faith, and fire. But long before any of that, the world shaped us. I stepped backward past memory, past language, and past civilization itself, into an age where survival was the only story. Welcome to the Ice Age.